Hello everybody, Murphy here, and welcome back to Black Beanie Gaming, the gaming arm of the Murphy Media blog. I made a video a few weeks back calling for a more civil discourse regarding Bethesda and Fallout 76. And the basic gist of that video is that if we show some semblance of trust, if we extend a hand out to Bethesda and be cooperative and be supportive despite their many shortcomings with the release of Fallout 76, that maybe, just maybe, giving them the benefit of the doubt will provide for us a better playing experience with the game, will provide information that they can use to make Fallout 76 a better game. Who knows, it could result in the change of the atomic shop prices, which are currently exorbitant, $5 for a baseball cap type deal. I think it's $18 to turn your power armor blue. And the controversy surrounding the game up to that point, my last video regarding Fallout 76, that was right a day or two after the nylon bag debacle. And that's probably when the Fallout 76 backlash reached its fever pitch. I was sitting there thinking, myself, ever the optimist, still lending my trust to Bethesda after so many years of great games and the occasional sketchy something happening in the background. I believed, honestly, that Bethesda would do the right thing, that they would listen to us, communicate better, do what they were saying they were going to do, perhaps even apologize for the state of the game, and maybe just offer players something more than, say, 500 atoms in response to not getting what was advertised, which at once is a canvas bag in their deluxe edition of the game, and the other being a playable game, period. I argued in that video that despite the fact they slighted consumers, that they could still develop a roadmap, a path to success and earning back the goodwill they've lost. That was roughly 12 days ago, something along those lines. 13 days ago I uploaded that video, and I kind of just, you know, I stood on my high horse, I stood up on my soapbox and I said, oh, well, can't get much worse, so it can only get better, and if there's one company that can make it better, it would be Bethesda. I'm worried, folks, that I was wrong, because following that nylon bag controversy, you had Layman Gaming, Young, Angry Joe, all of these people talking about the state of the game and the state of the products that they received and expressing their dismay about it. I thought Bethesda would take that to heart as quickly as possible. They have not done that. As a matter of fact, in the less than 2 weeks since I've uploaded that video, they've introduced more cosmetic items into the Atomic Shop for similarly exorbitant prices, which includes the Christmas set for a quote discounted price. Let's actually look that up. Here, this is from Screen Rant right here. Fallout 76 continued its frustrating relationship with its players earlier this week as new holiday-themed additions to the Atomic Shop arrived with exorbitant prices, since many of the items arrived with what amounts to a $20 United States dollar price tag for aesthetic items. To say that Fallout 76's recent exploitative infrastructure comes as a surprise to its community then would be an exaggeration. According to Eurogamer, the Atom Shop, currently has a Coming to Town bundle that has been discounted to 2,000 atoms. That's 20 real-world dollars, roughly, and includes a camp decoration based on a Christmas rad stag, player icons, and Mr. and Mrs. Claus outfits. That discount puts the real-world value at about $20, like I said. Meanwhile, a Red Rocket mega sign will set players back about $18, while a bunch of 12 different Christmas emotes will tag players for around $15. And there's a video that Yongya put out where he talks about it. The least amount that you would have to pay in order to get all 3 of these Christmas bundles is the highest tier Atom Shop purchase, which is like a 4,000 atoms plus 1,000 atom bonus to give you 5,000. That's 40 real-world dollars, which, as it stands, is probably about the price of the game. Let's look this up. Here. This is the price of the game, brand spanking new. Granted, it's a holiday sale, but it's $40. For that same price, for $40, you can get 4,000 atoms plus 1,000 atom bonus and get a whole bunch of cosmetic Christmas garbage. Absolutely unforgivable. On top of that, you've got the potential loot box system. You go right here. Recent data mining of an upcoming changelog suggests that loot boxes may be coming to the game, which might add another layer of controversy to Fallout 76. The word they found? Lunchboxes. And if anybody played Fallout Shelter, you remember what lunchboxes are. Which is all fine and dandy, because in Fallout Shelter, you can get things and play the game and grind it out for similar materials. You may not get as many rare items as playing the loot box game, but you'll still get some stuff. It's a free-to-play game. Fallout 76, to some people, cost upwards of $300 to $400, depending on the edition and bundle that you got of the game, which, we have to remind you, wasn't what was advertised. Fundamentally different than what was advertised on the package. On top of that, going back just a little bit further in relation to the nylon bag controversy, Bethesda went out and they were like, okay, as a token of our gratitude, we will fulfill a request for an actual canvas bag. As long as you come in, send in a ticket to our support staff, and we will get you a canvas bag. You just gotta send some information to prove that you actually bought the Power Armor edition of the game, that you are who you say you are, yada yada yada, fairly standard practice. Here's the tweet that they sent out. We are finalizing manufacturing plans for replacement canvas bags for the Fallout 76 Power Armor edition. If you purchased the Collector's Edition, please visit blah 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 and submit a ticket by January 31st. We'll arrange to send you a replacement as soon as the bags are ready. After submitting the tickets, however, the information was passed on to other users thanks to a technical error. Quote, I am receiving every single one of your support tickets on my Bethesda account, said Twitter user Jesse Pie. The receipts contain all your info, your email and home address, and the card you used to buy the extremely glitched game. The issue was quickly patched, but Bethesda's reputation took further damage, and the fallout, clever, might not be over, especially in Europe with its tight GDPR privacy rules. This is a company that is already under investigation by a law firm, and already has lawsuits filed against it for the state of this game. This controversy right here, the sensitive player data leak, happened pretty much right after I uploaded my last video, calling for people to be a little bit more civil, to temper their backlash. And at this point, no. Here's another thing about the lunchboxes here. Offering a pay-to-win advantage. And it would make sense. It really would. Lunchboxes being in the game, considering how the perk system works in the game, it's cards. You get card packs with a little stick of fucking gum that makes you, says a bad joke, and you chuckle to yourself about how far this franchise has fallen from grace, and the studio that's been developing it. But all of that comes to this. Fallout 76, Hotfix notes, December 19th, 2018. This is the patch that's rolling out today. Here's pretty much what they're doing. And let's see if this rectifies any of the major issues that they've been talking about. Localization, Korean language support has been added to Fallout 76, joy. This was added to console versions of the game already. PC players who have their language set to Korean will set in. Well, that's good for them. Stability and performance. PC addressed an issue that could cause the game client to crash after selecting exit to desktop. Fixed a setting that was left in a debug state. This could allow out-of-date clients to connect. Breaking gameplay. General. Exploit. Addressed an exploit that could allow items to be duplicated. Combat. Addressed an issue that could prevent high damage and explosive weapons from dealing damage to enemies or cause enemies to heal immediately after taking damage. Okay, and that's it. That fever pitch that I mentioned before, the fervor of the backlash, that has tempered down. That has slowly been sliding down into a calm sort of self-assurance from the consumer. They are assured themselves that this company and this game cannot be rectified. There is no recompense that will satisfy disgruntled consumers about this game, or Bethesda's reputation as a developer following this game. The fact that they are following Bungie's playbook after the launch of Destiny 2 by continuously avoiding addressing the glaring issues with their games, while simultaneously continuing to screw up. I would argue that consumers are fairly certain that this is just a dumpster fire, and they're crowded around, hot cocoa in hand, watching it burn out. You're not going to convince them that this can be fixed unless you start taking active measures to try to fix this. One more thing I forgot to mention that they haven't seemed to put up here, the Fov slider for PC. Granted, this was a week ago. Fallout 76 finally gives PC gamers what they were asking for, FOV slider and ultra-wide monitor support. It's a handful of players that use an ultra-wide monitor with a 21:9 aspect ratio. When they released the FOV slider, at least early on, was an extension of the screen. That's it. It took the base image and then stretched it out to fit a wider aspect ratio. rather than actually displaying the game without warping any of the visuals in the HUD in a wider aspect ratio. But that's just a brief aside. That's a grain of sand on this mountain of misfires, mishaps, and PR disaster. Again, they're following the Bungie playbook. I was willing to believe that they naively jumped into all of these shady business practices and just were in over their heads and no idea what they were doing. A staff of 300 people had no idea what they were doing, and perhaps that was just ignorance on my part, naivety on my part. Because in the weeks that have followed my little statement about, oh, well, we should just give them the benefit of the doubt. They're Bethesda. They won't just relegate all of this tidy work, this busy work of actually fixing their game to the modders. You know, myself neglecting the fact that that's what they've done ever since they reached that kind of pinnacle of Western RPG godness that they had attained for so long, all those consecutive GOTY awards that they won from Morrowind up until Skyrim. I think it was mainly just me wanting to believe that they would do better, and so far they haven't. You have Redditors, modders, people who know the ins and outs of your engine, who know the ins and outs of this industry, holding everything you do under a microscope. You will be held accountable for every good or bad thing you do. And the direct result of that, and I'll show you right here, is lackluster sales. Now, you've probably heard for a while now that the UK sales for Fallout 76 were very poor. And they were. They were 80% less than Fallout 4's launch 3 years ago. Now, last week, they fell to their lowest point on the charts here. This is the UK Archive software charts, top 40 entertainment software, week ending the 15th of December 2018. Here's Fallout 76 here. Oop. There. Last week, it was at 19th. This week, it's at 14th. So it's risen, but it took less than a month for Fallout 76 to drop out of the top 5 best-selling games in the UK, with obviously Red Dead Redemption and FIFA taking the cake. And you may be saying, and again, this only constitutes physical sales, it doesn't take into account digital sales. One can assume that you lump in GameStop, Best Buy, Walmart, Target, all of these the outlets here in the US, solid copy games are still the norm, or at least considered the norm for now. So a significant dip like this in physical sales is indicative of a very serious problem. And you may be thinking to yourself, oh, well, that's just the UK. You know, the UK, they buy games a little bit differently from us. You know, they're Western like us, but they're not so Western like us being the US. Well, here's an article from GameSpot that was released yesterday. Fallout 76 first month sales. Here's how the game did. It ranked 4th in November, and that only counts physical sales. NPD Group's report for US game sales in November showed the Fallout 76 was the 4th best-selling game of November, only behind Battlefield 5. Battlefield 5, which was 60% less, thereabouts, Battlefield 1's launch. Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which launched about I think Black Ops 4 launched similarly to World War II, and Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 obviously breaking records left and right. While the NPD Group reports now contain digital sales number, this only applies to some publishers. Bethesda doesn't share digital game sales, I wonder why, so Fallout 76 ranking 4th with only physical sales accounted for is a more impressive achievement. Is it though? Fallout 76's physical sales in the US in November amounted to the 3rd highest launch month sales in the history of the Fallout series, only behind Fallout 4 and New Vegas. Two far superior games. Critics generally did not enjoy Fallout 76, and GameSpot's review scored it a 4 out of 10. While Bethesda hasn't announced any specific sales numbers for Fallout 76, the company said last month that millions of people have played the game. Fallout 76, only physical sales 4th. Were this Fallout 4 or any other Bethesda game, it would have most likely come out in 2nd. Had Fallout 4 promised on the massive hype that it had, it still sold unbelievably well, despite disappointing players. But if it had performed up to snuff, up to spec, up to expectations, then Fallout 76 would have been just as highly anticipated, regardless of what type of game it was. People would have been, you know, they would have exercised their trepidation accordingly, but they still would have bought the game. And I feel like more people employed a wait and see approach to this game. And certainly Fallout 76's public perception wasn't helped at all by the disastrous beta and the fact that they released the beta at only specific times during the day, 2 weeks before launch, and then the reviews being as poor as they were, the user reviews being as poor as they were, and the objective quality of the game being as poor as it was, as poor as it is. That's what results in these sales. We look at games like Fallout and games from Bethesda that have such ardent public support behind them prior to this particular launch. You look at fan bases like this. Games like Fallout don't have the universal appeal of the Call of Duties and Red Dead Redemptions and Grand Theft Autos. They don't. What's driven Fallout forward for over a decade, what's driven the Elder Scrolls forward for over a decade, is the goodwill that this player base, this fan base, people who appreciate Bethesda's style of Western RPGs, people who appreciate the company for their attention to detail in their open worlds, people who appreciate this company for feeling like the little guy in an ocean of EAs. When you're looking at publishers, massive publishers like EA, Ubisoft, Activision, for the longest time, nobody would have assumed that Bethesda would try to mirror those business practices just for a buck. And maybe this is a directive sent down from the top by ZeniMax. Maybe this is a sign of times to come. I'm not so optimistic anymore. I'll be the first to admit that. I called for everybody to be a bit more optimistic in my last video about this. I didn't want to make another Fallout 76 video because I sat back and I was like, you know what? Everybody deserves to be as angry as they are, but don't write off this studio just yet. Don't write off this developer, this publisher. Don't write off this company just yet. I sat back with anticipation, waiting for them to do the right thing. They are beyond capable of doing the right thing and making the right moves and fixing these errors and communicating better with the players. And while they've made slight progress, it's at the moment, it's like it's 6 months away from a respectable launch, the current state of the game. But it's not just the game, it's the PR blunders that go along with it. It's that communication, it's support team members on your website leaking information to people, it's appearing aloof when you're addressing concerns of the consumer or just not addressing them at all. It's delivering them key aspects of the game that they wanted for so long, but then when you deliver it, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. As is it doesn't work appropriate to the industry standard. Like, yes, there's an FOV slider, but it screws with the proportions of the game. It stretches out the dimension, it forces your field of view into a 21:9 aspect ratio instead of just being in a 21:9 aspect ratio. And of course, modders have already been jumping all over this thing to get it fixed, but you're talking about an online game that takes place in servers. You're talking about fundamental design elements of the game that just either don't work or are just inappropriate for a game styled like this. But I thought that Bethesda could at least grab a hold of the wheel and hit the brakes on this runaway car here, careening off a cliff as it seems. I thought they were up to the task, and I know it's only been about 2 weeks since I decided to share my thoughts with you guys on it. I wouldn't say I was optimistic, but I was hopeful. I knew Bethesda could do better, and I hoped very much so that they would be better. And 2 weeks of a raging dumpster fire is 2 weeks too many. I know people are still out there enjoying the hell out of this game. The people who love this game will be the first people to tell you, like, you know, well, good. If you don't like it, don't play it. I only want to play it with people who want to play it. And you know, they're probably right. You know, this game has an audience, or it's at least found a reliable audience. People that are going to come back to this game just because they enjoy it. Spend your time however you want to spend your time, but complacency benefits no one. You can love a game despite its flaws. You don't have to acquiesce to said flaws as a necessary byproduct of this industry. The more we let them get away with, the more they will do. Hold them accountable. I was willing to give Bethesda another pass in my last video. I was hopeful that they would use it as quickly as possible to address these concerns, but still, I haven't seen anyone from Bethesda take a microphone and get out in front of some people and apologize. They've never had to deal with a situation like this. This fan base has never had to deal with a situation like this. They're angry. They're justified in their irritation. They demand a better product, because Bethesda, despite all the flaws of their previous releases, those games have been better products. They've attained for themselves a reputation, and their products have always been high caliber, decent, respectable, deep, thoroughly enjoyable games. And it throws into question their ability to deliver experiences like that in the future. I should say that I still hope they can turn this around. I hope it turns around. I hope they do the right thing. I hope they get this game into a playable state. I hope they learn from all of this. And I know that they're probably following a roadmap that they set course on months ago, prior to the release of the game. They had an idea of everything they wanted to do. They're like, okay, we'll do this, we'll get the game out, we'll introduce microtransactions way down along the line, we'll loot boxes, that is, way down along the line. They probably had a plan. A way that they expected this game to perform, to be received critically, commercially, and I honestly don't think that anything has gone according to plan. I think they're still trying to adhere to that old roadmap. I think they need to go back to the drawing board and get everything done differently. There's a way to save this game. There are countless YouTube videos that you can find where people are talking about how they would fix this game. I'm not saying that you have to take any of those seriously or that they aren't worth taking seriously, but right now Bethesda is trying to squeeze a square peg through a round hole. And sooner or later, they are going to have to address the public in more than 140 characters. Or 260 characters, however long a tweet is. Alright, well that's it for today's video. Not really sure why I hopped back on this bandwagon to beat this dead horse. I was sitting thinking to myself for a while about just how I wanted Bethesda to behave and act a certain way, and so far they haven't done it, and that just bothers me. That really bothers me. So this is just a rant, just me venting my frustrations about this whole thing. I expected more from them. I want them to be better. I know they can be better. They've just, for some reason, chosen not to. When I made that last video, I said specifically that they have the capacity to do this. The only thing that will determine their success going forward is whether or not they choose to do it. Their optics have suffered tremendously because of this. Everything they're doing now and everything they will do in the future will be held to an even higher standard. They've got to earn back public trust, and that's not easy. That's not easy at all. People conflate your company with companies like EA, Activision, whose stocks have been falling pretty significantly all year due to their abhorrent business practices. It's not good. It's not good at all. I'm not quite as optimistic as I was. And hopefully this is the last Fallout 76 video that I feel compelled to make. Here's hoping that if I do make another one, it will sing Bethesda's... I will sing Bethesda's praises and love them again and feel content and happy and hopeful and optimistic about their future as a game developer and publisher. But at the moment, it doesn't look like that's happening. And that's quite depressing. So on that dour note, I hope you're enjoying your holiday season. I hope you continue to do so. I will be uploading more gameplay videos soon. Hopefully you're enjoying those. Please be sure to check out Black Beanie Gaming on Twitter at black_beanie and my blog, The Murphy Media Blog, at www.themurphymediablog.com. And as always, thanks so much for stopping by. Until next time.